Sensei Says Podcast.
I think that the primary thing in me genetically, for whatever reason, is doubt. Like just doubt. Like, I'm just me from small town. I'm just Charlie from Hollidaysburg. Like whatever. So then it was like I wrestled, and then that internal battle was like put on display or whatever in wrestling, and then ultimately in fighting. And then after fighting, it was like, okay, now what? And I've almost like learning is my sport. And I've never really thought about this, but it's almost like learning is my sport. I needed something else to do. There's no fighting, there's no wrestling. I needed something else to do. And I got in the habit, we were talking about Frankie Edgar earlier, I got in the habit of being around world classes on a daily basis. And when I stopped fighting, I just wasn't. I live in Pennsylvania, I trained in Jersey mostly. It wasn't that way anymore. And then I was like, well, I do like reading books. I've always been a curious person. I've always been academic. It was instilled in me from a young age. But my real love of learning, it was like, all right, well, I'm not around world classers. All right, wait a minute. I can read books written by world classers. Now I'm around world classers every day.
There you go.
And then my podcast is essentially me teaching what I learned from those world classers.
And I got a friend of mine who I talk with. He's a pretty deep guy. And every time we talk about my objectives or what I want to do or my checks, like you say, the first question that he asked me is why.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like,
exactly.
And then you have to think, and then you go a little deeper, and then you come up with a more thorough answer.
Yeah.
So I'm asking you, lifelong learning.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. So I'll give you my thought on it first, and then I'll give you the answer to the question. It's understanding why you're doing something is huge, and there's books about it, and it's the popular thing, right, in personal development. Why, what's your why, etc. But sometimes it's like, if you just do it, I don't know and I don't care, I just do it, But when I do think about it, when someone asks me that question, I think about it, for whatever reason, I go back to middle school, and I go back to being so afraid of like getting beaten up, and so afraid of like doing something to getting in a fight, right, either hurting somebody or getting hurt. I was always on the straight and narrow path, and that means like doing the right things because I want to win a state title and get straight A's. And there was such like kickback from knuckleheads, like in my town, in my school. So I go back to me then, and I think, man, I just want to comfort anyone who feels like that. And when I was wrestling, it's a weird thing, like, and I mean, you probably experienced it from martial arts, but like when you or me or whatever just dedicate yourself to something, it brings people up. Like, it's an ideal that people are like, they feel good watching you pursue a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was me in wrestling. And then in fighting, I would get so many like messages that are just basically spilling their emotions out to me, saying how I'm helping them in one way or another. And I'm like, I'm just fighting. I don't even, but then it was like, wait a minute, if I just pursue something, it lifts people up. And then it's like, wait a minute, if I pursue learning and I pursue books, I can lift them up, but I can also teach them like how to lift themselves up and teach them all of this wealth that's in these books that I'm reading.
If you can move well, you'll set yourself up to do whatever it is, your goal, your dream. If you want to run an obstacle course race, whatever it is, move well first, and then let everything open from there.
There's always somebody who just shows up. And in life, you can't just show up, and ultimately it catches up with you. And the mountains are not forgiving. And so we've had guys fall in crevasses. We've guys had